Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and that's all I have to say. He's still a top 5 quarterback in this league, and there's nothing really anyone can do about it.
Everyone's looking for the young guy. They're looking for McVay. I think take a shot out Todd Bowles, get him a second shot at head coach, and see if he can do it.
I don't think they will. If they don't have Anthony Davis, I'm saying it right now, if Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
It's crazy. And our kids will know how great Tom Brady is because he's going to be playing.
Yes, it is 15.0%. I swear we didn't script that.
All I could think of was Dame.
6-0. There could not be a better name.
Speaking of young guys, how about the goalie, Ottinger?
He was a 6th-round pick. This is a fairy tale story that's being written in front of our eyes.
That's what the Yankees brought Garrett Cole to do.
They didn't struggle against the Padres. The Padres didn't really put up a fight in most of the games.
Jerry Jones, hope you're listening because this is why you shouldn't have given Zeke this contract. Just thought I'd point that out.
I feel like Luka will take that next step, and if he can get a 3 ball consistently around 35%, I feel like they could become a contender.
While with the Padres and Marlins, I think it's coming in the near future.
They're my pick to win the most rings in the 2020s.
I was shocked by Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Montreal has one of the best goalies in the league with Carey Price.
People like to call them their JV team, and they just stole one of their better players.
Hi, I'm Landon Bowe, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our 66th episode. Make sure to check out our last episode, which is when we talked about the West, still mourning the loss of the Mavericks in Game 7. However, I do come with some happiness as for going back to our predictions video, I am up by 3 with 9, and Austin has 6. It's not the best predictions video, definitely not the worst, pretty sure. And it's not the best because all the people we predicted to be in our semifinals all got knocked out. So, but we still get points. I got a point because the Bruins and Islanders series went 6, and I said it would go 6. And then Austin had Tampa versus Hurricanes. He had Hurricanes winning in 5 when Tampa actually won in 5, but he still gets a point because he said 5 games. So very interesting. And we are now on Instagram. We have an official Instagram page. I'm not the best to explain it, so just type in search bar on Instagram, Outsiders Opinions. And then now let's get down to NHL second round review and semifinal preview. Austin, did I describe it right? How to do Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, it's just outsiders_opinions. So, really easy to find. We've only have one post, and it's just welcoming everybody to the page. So, yeah, that's all we have.
Yeah. And then, so let's talk about Tampa Bay versus Carolina. Kucherov has been incredible. Same with Braden Point. I think it was the final game. He had such an incredible goal with that deke, and then he forced the goalie to go one way. So they're just doing what they were doing last year.
Yeah. And I've really expected more out of Sebastian Aho and crew. Jordan Stahl had his best year this year, even though he's in his 30s now and is towards the tail end of his career. But Aho, man, he just didn't come through when needed. I really anticipated for him to have a better, not year, because he was outstanding all year, more than a point per game player. And really did play well, but this is 3 straight seasons where they've underperformed. Well, I guess you could say 2019 they didn't underperform. They were kind of a wild card team, sort of. Like, many didn't expect them to go past the Capitals, and they did. Made it to the second round and then got swept by Boston. No. They made it to the conference finals. That's right. They made it to the conference finals. They won against the Capitals in 7, swept the Islanders, and then got swept by Boston in the conference finals in 2019. And then the last year they lost in 5 to Boston, so that's back-to-back years losing to Boston. And then this year, many like myself had them going much further than the second round, and they only won 5 games in the playoffs when they lost 6. They had a losing record in the playoffs. I expected more, like I said, out of Aho. Um, he had 4 points in the series, but he had none in the last game. They got shut out. And yeah, I just expected Dougie Hamilton. I expected more out of. I mean, there's just a lot of guys I just thought were going to play better. It hurt to have who I thought was going to be the Conn Smythe winner, Vinny Trocheck, or Vincent Trocheck, whatever you want to call him, was out for part of the series, and that really hurt, but that's not an excuse to lose in 5.
Yeah, I was about to talk about Trocheck and then to talk about Tampa Bay. Carolina had some good shots. Problem was Vasilevsky was just making some incredible saves, and so that really hurts Carolina. And some players underperformed, but it's getting scary to what Tampa Bay is doing right now. Any final thoughts before we move on to the next game?
No, I mean you said it right. I mean it's just impressive what they've been able to do, even throughout some injuries on their team. And Pat Maroon's looking to win his 3rd straight Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I definitely don't want that I definitely don't want that to happen. And now we got to talk about it, but it's a little bit early in the episode. So, Bruins versus Islanders. Kyle Palmieri was doing incredible, and it's like he was a little slow after they acquired him at the trade deadline, but he's starting to heat up. He's really starting to heat up. And then Barzell. But I want to talk to you about you pulled Rask in game 5, and then you have Swayman. He does well. Do you agree with starting Rask? Because I think Rask has some experience, so that's why I would start him game 6 because you could potentially lose the series. What are your thoughts on that?
I would have started Swayman. Rask wasn't 100% healthy. He said in his exit interview that he wasn't, and it was obvious he wasn't playing his best. And I love Rask. I feel like Bruins fans give way too much hate towards Rask, and that is really uncalled for. Um, However, I do not think it was the most intelligent thing to do to start him, and it really showed. The Bruins are a team that's very top heavy. Marchand, Pastrnak both had 9 points, 9 points in 6 games, compared to the Islanders' top 2 guys had 6. They had 3 guys with 6: Pageau, Barzell, and Palmieri. Krejci had 7. McAvoy had 7. Bergeron had 5. And that's really it with points. I mean, they had 2 from Taylor Hall. You have to get more Taylor Hall. You're a better player. You've won the Hart before. We got you for a 2nd-round pick, which is a pretty good trade for us. I think we also traded Lazar. But it just, I expect more out of. We need a secondary scoring all season. That really was the issue with the Bruins, and that's why we got Taylor Hall. We wanted a secondary scorer, somebody not on the top line that can score. And besides Krejci, who's the only second line center that could really do anything, or second line player, I should say, and then McAvoy, our star defenseman, that was it. Rask didn't play his best, but I don't blame this series on him. He did have a under 900% or 900 save percentage, which is atrocious. But some of those goals were given up by terrible plays by Matt Grzelcyk in his zone. Some dumb plays by the Bruins not getting it out, and Barry Trotz and the Islanders move on. I got to give credit to them. Uh, they had a great series, and it's really impressive how well they can control the defensive zone. They don't allow good shots, and that's just how impressive it is for Bergeron and Pastrnak to both have 9 points. Is that when you have this team that's so suffocating on defense, they couldn't do anything about those guys. But they can shut down every other person or every other line on the team besides Krejci. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Pajot also did a great job winning faceoffs against Bergeron, and that's difficult for anyone. And then I'm going to talk about the goalies. You didn't start Sorokin. Well, you did, and then you switch out for Varlamov, and he gets 4 wins. And so, a good problem is who do they start in against Tampa Bay? And we'll get to that when we do the preview. But I definitely agree. Bruins top line was incredible, but it's going to be interesting what they do in the off season because you mentioned training for Taylor Hall. Do they pick someone else up to help with for their other lines? But I think we can move on to the Canadians versus Jet series. where Carey Price was just incredible, and the Canadians have had 7 straight wins, and that's just incredible. What were your thoughts?
This was one of the most impressive series I've ever watched. Um, the defense for Montreal was something I have rarely ever seen. It's Islanders-esque. If we see an Islanders Canadian final, there will be 7 goals in the entire series, and they will all come in triple overtime, and it'll be a 4-3 win by somebody. I don't. I just don't know how a team scores against these teams if they're playing against each other. Especially, they play way too uh, secure. They play safe, but it's a good save. They get points. Tyler Toffoli, 5 points in 4 games. He was their star during the season. He was stolen from Vancouver. Vancouver didn't even want to give him a contract. I found that funny. Shifley, though, Shifley is really what we have to talk about. He had that hit against Jake Evans, and he was out for the whole series. Mark Scheifele is one of the best centers in the league, defensively and offensively. 63 points this year in 56 games. He has to be on the ice. He's a very, very good player, and he's a very, very respectful player. He normally doesn't have these issues, and I think he just got caught up in the moment. He didn't want him to score, and it was kind of just boiling over some anger in the rest of his team for not performing as well in Game 1, and caused him to miss the rest of the series, and that really doomed them from the start. But I have to mention Carey Price. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Carey Price was incredible, and that just really hurts. That really helped the defense and just some saves. I was like, wow. And to Canadians to me are very similar to the Dallas Stars a little bit, mostly because you have Corey Perry was on both teams when the Stars made that improbable run last year and or last postseason, sort like a few months, like 7 months ago, I think is when it happened. Not exactly a year ago because of the shutdown, but and great goaltending is what pushed it. You had Hadobin for the Stars, but that was less expected than Carey Price just being Carey Price. And then to talk, you mentioned Jordan Stahl and how he's had a great season this year. I want to talk about Eric Stahl and the pairing with Corey Perry. They have done really well. And sort of, Corey Perry didn't have a lot of goals in the regular season for the Stars, but in the playoff season, in the playoffs, he really turned it up, and he has turned it up like once again this year. And then you have some help from Toffoli, and it's going to be a very interesting uh, goalie matchup: Fleury and Price, and then you got Pacioretty versus his old team. But any final thoughts before we move on to uh, the Avalanche versus Knights series?
Yeah, I'd just like to mention not enough love is given to Philip Dano, in my opinion. He's one of the best defensive forwards in the game. He should win the Selke one of these years. I know he's not up in the top 3 this year, but he eventually should win it. He's so good. He was destroying whoever their top forward is. I believe that he'll probably match up against Mark Stone or Pacioretty, depending on who gets hot. But it's just impressive for everything they do. Many people didn't give them a chance. They really had a losing record in the regular season. They had 11 overtime losses. They had 24 regular season wins and 21 regular season losses. It's almost like they went 24-32, and they just swept the Jets. I mean, it's crazy to believe everything they've done this season. And I believe they really have a chance, especially with Carey Price playing as well as he did. He had a 942 save percentage. He allowed 6 goals in 4 games. It's just defensive mind coaching with veteran players who've been there before, done it before. Eric Stahl and Corey Perry have both won a championship. Eric Stahl with the Hurricanes back in 2006, and then Corey Perry with the Anaheim Ducks in 2007. They have guys who've won it before. Tyler Toffoli won it in 2014 with the Kings. I mean, they have guys who've done it before. And now they have Carey Price playing out of his mind. They definitely have a chance, and I'm excited to see this series against the Knights. But let's go to the Avalanche versus Knights.
Yeah, great transition. Avalanche. So they have 6 straight wins. I'm feeling confident about my pick. And then it shifts away. Pacioretty was incredible. Fleury just made some excellent saves, especially last night. And then the scoring just got too out of hand. I'm curious, what did you think about the series?
Yeah, I was really worried because if you got the Avalanche win, I wouldn't have a chance anymore uh, to at least tie, and then we'll decide the tiebreaker later. But I want to talk about Matthias Janmark. He's played 10 games these playoffs, and he has 7 points. He's played really well. Um, he had 8 points the whole playoffs last year with Dallas on that run, and he's a really good defensive forward. His shot percentage is an insane 27.3%, which cannot be understated. But this Vegas team as a whole is just full of fighters. They don't want the same thing to happen like it did last year, where they lost the Stars in 5. This is definitely going to be a close series against the Canadians. I'll probably take. We'll get to that when we get to our predictions. It's a tough matchup, but Cale Makar really stepped up. Nathan McKinnon played well. I know he didn't get as many goals as many people would like, but he did have 6 points in 6 games. Brandon Saad could score the puck, dude. He could score 4 goals in 6 games. He was really performing, but it was really Fleury outperforming Grubauer was the story. After game 1, where Robin Leonard had a 811 save percentage and allowed 7 goals on 37 shots, Fleury stepped in and only allowed 11 in the next 5 games. And that really was the tale of the tape. What did you think?
Yeah, and to talk about the McKinnon line, which was just so on fire in their first 2 wins. Um, I believe Mark Stone's line with Pacioretty and Stevenson, they were matched up with the McKinnon line, and they did a great job keeping the McKinnon line playing defense and not allowing them to get into the offensive zone. They really tired them on defensive end, and then they had a shift. They had a change, so it was just a great job by the Knights. And then Petrangelo, who of course played for the Blues for a long time. He had the second goal. He had a late second goal or a
He had a
late
late second
goal.
period goal to put him up 4-3. If that's what you're trying to say, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I was like, it was in the final seconds, so like the late seconds. But thanks for catching and getting better to the point. So that's good, and that's why you signed him. He plays well, and he's really helped their defensive side. And I think if you have any final thoughts on those comments.
Well, I just want to say something before we go to our predictions. Injuries happen, and I hate when fans complain about injuries because they're going to happen. It's hockey. There's a lot of hitting, and even for goalies. I could get mad at Rask for not playing well, but he was hurt. I get mad at Bruce Cassidy, for not starting Swayman. I wouldn't have put Rask in that situation. I trust Swayman. He's played well all year. I know he allowed 1 goal on 3 shots in the last game, but he wasn't really stepped in. It's hard when you're coming in off the bench as a goaltender, especially when you don't get any shots like they used to before they really get game time. Uh, Injuries happen. Injuries do influence what happens in the playoffs, and they definitely will affect what team wins this year. But it doesn't take away from the team that does win. Um, the Lightning faced a lot of injuries last year and made it far. We can only talk about the Stars. I mean, Ben Bishop was out for a long time. Sagan was out for a long time, and they made it to the finals. Injuries don't make a season. They do influence some results, especially in some games, but you can still win a series without one of your best players. It's just how you take
Yeah,
that. It's just how you take the challenge. And
yeah.
I know fans don't like to see it when their favorite team gets knocked out because of an injury, but that's just how it happens. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well said. Stars Tyler Sagan played with like a torn hip, and then Rupe Hintz this past year was playing. I think it was something with his hip as well. He was playing injured, and he
Yeah, and Hintz
was
got
good.
hurt in the Stanley Cup Finals too.
Yeah, and, I'm pretty sure. I think Dickinson was the guy who had like a shattered ankle in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah,
So
it was a fractured ankle. Yeah, and he was still playing. I mean,
okay,
hockey, you don't stop playing until you can't skate. So if somebody's out, they're out for a reason.
yeah, and that's why I love the hockey. They don't tell you exactly what the injury is, so like you can be, man, this guy stinks, and then like the injury report comes out, and you're like, oh, he had like a fractured ankle, torn hip. Oh, that's maybe why he wasn't playing what I was expecting. So that's
Yeah,
just a
like there
cool
was
thing
this
about
one.
hockey.
There was what was the player? There was a player in the Maple Leaf series. No. It was the Jet series. Nate Ehlers. Nate Ehlers had a torn labrum in his ribs. Had a torn muscle in his ribs, and like, no, I'm fine. I'm not hurt. When you're skating side to side, that would hurt so bad. And the fact that he still plays, like he did not play good in that series. Nate Ehlers did, but he also had a torn labrum in his ribs. So I mean, I don't really know how to take it. Um, they're trying as hard as they can. It's injuries happen; they're going to affect you, but they don't affect the result as much as some people think.
And now that we can segue into the preview, uh, we have a little bit of a hiatus, like 3 days without hockey. I know it's hard for those hardcore hockey fans going 3 days or 2 days, 2 days.
Yeah, I think they
But
start on Sunday.
yeah, yeah, I was thinking 3 days because so we saw Leonard start in the first game for the Knights versus Knights versus Avalanche. Just getting a little crossed up there. And then because you wanted to give Fleury rest, I don't think I'm pretty sure 3 days is going to be good enough for Fleury. So I don't think we see Leonard for the rest of this series, maybe even the rest of the playoffs, because Fleury is just playing incredible right now. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's the same thing with Carey Price. I don't think they were going to take Carey Price out for Game 1 against the Jets, and they didn't. Um, you have to play your best goaltender. Jake Allen is a very, very good backup. One of the best backups in the league, just like Leonard. One of the best backups in the league, just like Hudobin was last year with the Stars. They can get you through parts of the playoffs, but the difference between Carey Price and Jake Allen is noticeable, and playoff Carey Price is a whole different beast. Um, he's played so well these playoffs and are a huge reason why they made it so far, but so is the defense. I think we can segue into the Canadiens versus Vegas series. I'd probably take Vegas in 6, but I don't think enough respect is given to the Canadiens for all they've done. I know they had a bad record during the regular season, but that really does not matter. Um, in hockey, anything can happen. Parity is a very real thing in hockey, and I'm excited to see how the series goes. What are your thoughts on this series?
Yeah, I'm pulling for the Canadians just because then Carey Price gets to his first Stanley Cup final. But I also think Knights too, which is an interesting story as well because they were in it last year and they only got one win against the Stars. And it would be the first time, I believe, that they're back in the finals since they lost to the Capitals. So that'd be very interesting. And I'm very intrigued how Pacioretty is, how that's going to be against the Canadians and how he plays because
Yeah, I
he's been a
can't wait to the
huge,
first game. Yeah, I can't wait for the first game in Montreal in the Bell Center
yeah,
or Bell Arena. It's Bell Center or Bell Arena. I know it's Bell something, but yeah,
and he,
Montreal is going to be bumping, and there may be some booze for Pacioretty. But
yeah,
Nick Suzuki was in that trade, and he's one of their best young forwards. I think Montreal's won that trade, and it's pretty evident. But Pacioretty, it's one of those things where you got to win a cup to prove you won the trade. We'll see what happens as they're meeting in the playoffs. What were you saying?
yeah, Pacioretty has been a huge offensive boost because he came in Game 7 against the Wild and he's been able to stay in the lineup, and that's when you've seen Vegas offense really uptick. But I think we can move on to a rematch: Tampa Bay versus the Islanders. I'm very intrigued if you start Sorokin or Biralarmov. I hope I got that
Varlamov.
pronunciation. Yeah, and so I think you ride with Baralamov just because he um, faced a tougher matchup. What do you think about that?
I mean, Varlamov was their goaltender for the majority of last playoffs, and it's tough. As Sorokin won all 4 games last series, like the series before last, I guess, first round. And last round, all the wins were by Varlamov. He only had 1 loss. Um, so it's going to be interesting to see. Both of the Islanders series so far have gone 6, even though they are the lower seed. They won both of their clinching games at uh, at home, which is probably where you want to do it. Uh, but it's going to be interesting to see the when Tampa gets to the Islanders zone, how good do they play? Because last playoffs, as we saw, it was a really close series, even though it went 5. I'm going to take Tampa in 5 again, but we'll see what happens. I will be surprised if the Islanders win this. They don't have enough scoring. Bailey's played well. Barzell's played well. Pageau's played well. Brock Nelson's played well, but I just don't know if they have that extra lift, especially with Andrews Lee being out for the entire year. Their star captain, one of their best defensive players. It's going to be tough for me to see them win, but they definitely are in it. They have a chance. Varlamov is playing very well, and we'll have to see what happens. What do you think?
Yeah, this is actually a deja vu moment. I picked the Islanders last time versus Tampa Bay. I am not picking the Islanders. I'm riding with Tampa Bay as well. Their power play has just been incredible. And you mentioned how their Islanders probably aren't going to be able to keep up with Tampa Bay. And that's definitely like if there wasn't any other goalie, that'd still be tough. But when you're facing Vasilevsky, and Vasilevsky is playing incredible right now. So that gives me the edge, and I'm very intrigued how the Islanders penalty kill does against the power play, because I think it was around 80% last series or 70. I'll check that out right now. Um, versus the Hurricanes, but I'll let you talk a little bit more while I search that up.
Yeah, and I mean the Islanders didn't do too great of a job about stopping the Bruins lines, and I bet the Bruins are probably they're better than the Penguins offensively speaking. I don't think they're better than the Lightning. It's pretty close, but the difference between the Lightning and Bruins, even though their offenses are close to the same, is Victor Hedman. Victor Hedman's played amazing. They also have Sergachev and all these other guys, and I mean it's going to be a tough series. I'm taking Tampa in 5. I'd love for it to go 7. I'd love for both these series to go 7. I'd love to see game 7s. The intensity is there, but we've only seen 2 so far these playoffs: Minnesota versus Vegas and Canadiens versus Montreal. Canadiens versus Montreal, nice. Canadiens versus Toronto. But it's going to be an interesting series. I anticipate a lot of hard checking, and it's going to come down to whether or not the Islanders can stop the top line of the Lightning from destroying them.
Yeah, and then I forgot to mention I did say Tampa Bay, but I am going to say Tampa Bay Lightning in 6. And just a disclaimer that these predictions are just these do not have any implications on our predictions video and the numbers. So we're just gonna hope it goes for a couple more games. And I'm still looking for the playoff statistics. Um, uh, yeah, I'm just still having trouble, but I'll probably find it as soon as this episode ends. But um, power play has been really incredible. I was trying to see if I could get the numbers right, but having trouble finding them. So definitely going to be some incredible hockey, and I'm looking forward to watching all of these games. Any final thoughts, Austin?
Not really. I'm excited to see these rounds. I hope they're better than the rounds before them. As like I said, we haven't seen game 7 since round 1.
Yeah, very true. And now this concludes our episode. Please make sure to follow that Instagram page. You know how to find it. Outsiders_opinions on Instagram. And then make sure to check out our interviews. And next episode, it's been a while since we've talked some baseball. So we're going to talk some baseball with another MLB power rankings. Be very interesting to see where the Rangers and the Yankees end up. And that concludes our episode. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.